Walt Disney's experimental prototype community of tomorrow, aka Epcot Center, aka Epcot, opened in 1982 as a theme park that sought to be a permanent World's Fair, as opposed to Walt's initial plans of a living, breathing, futuristic city, with one half dedicated to future concepts and environments, and the other focused on bridging the gap between various world countries and cultures. Epcot presented a grander, more mature endeavor from the Disney Company than any of its previous castle parks. Where Magic Kingdom was sparked by the fires of imagination and fantasy, Epcot was more grounded in the natural wonders, hopes, and experiences of the world around us. In the near 40 years since its debut, Epcot has changed significantly, with many, if not most, of its classic attractions lost to yesterland. What remains is a park seeking to redefine itself, either back to its own roots, or forging a newer, more IP-centric experience, such as Frozen's recent invasion of Norway and the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy and Ratatouille attractions. A recent D23 presentation hinted at many more changes to come on the horizon. With the park's world about to change, we at Default Assault thought that now would be an ideal time to take stock of the Epcot that currently exists in the summer of 2018. Much like our previous Magic Kingdom Bracket Challenge, we've invited back our special guest, Jen Juneau, to pit Epcot's attractions and pavilions against each other in an epic elimination game to figure out which is the best of the best. Since Epcot is a very different beast when compared to the other Disney parks, here are our ground rules. Number 1. All future world attractions will compete on their own merit and not as whole pavilions. Number 2. Other than a couple of significant exceptions, such as Seabass and Innoventions, we are not including the interactive areas at the exit of many rides. Number 3. In World Showcase, the rides and theater shows will compete individually from their host countries. While it's a challenge to compare a country pavilion to a future world ride, we'll be focusing on the different experiences as a whole, and conclude on which delivers better. Lastly, there will be a few surprise additions along the way, including the Walt Disney World Monorail. Heck, it runs through Future World, so I'd argue that it has a strong connection to the park's overall aesthetic, plus a returning champion which appears in all Default Assault brackets, the Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover, the ever-constant plague on my co-host, Mr. Kyle Nash's nervous system. So let's just jump right into this. The very first one we have up is the big globe itself. It's pictured on my shirt. Spaceship Earth versus the Disney and Pixar short film collection at at the Imagination. Replace Captain EO, and I can't think of anything less Epcot than that.
I mean, anything that replaces Captain EO to me is like a no-no. So automatically that's a vote against. I mean, I love Pixar short films, like don't get me wrong. I haven't seen this exhibit at Epcot, but I know like I've seen enough of the Pixar short films to kind of get like what the gist of that attraction would be. But Captain EO was like, man, they had like a booth right outside Captain EO that had like, they sold the shirts with like the rainbow like stripe on it, and I have like a pin, and it was just so like iconic. Anyway, Spaceship Earth is iconic. Like it's the ride of the park. Like it's not the most exciting ride ever, but first off, Orlando, it's super hot and humid, and anytime you need air conditioning, that ride line is usually only like 10 minutes at the most, unless it's like a holiday weekend. And also, it's in the big ball. It's going to be a hard one to beat. So that one has my vote for sure.
Well, considering that air conditioning got the people mover 2 rounds in on the Disney bracket, I got to be clear, that's not really a horrible argument. You're also talking the foremost land structure that identifies Epcot. You got to give it that. And listen, I know that Jen said earlier that this is not about Captain EO and Michael Jackson and all that, but hey, at the end of the day, it's almost like Captain EO is almost like just another part of me.
Oh, Christ.
Another part of me.
We got it.
It's not that Pixar shorts are a bad concept, but how about we put that over in Hollywood Studios so we have something that's not like a few square inches. That's not Star Wars up in that bitch. All right.
Especially now since they have the Toy Story like expansion, they should put that over there, man. Bring Captain EO back.
All right, moving on. We have Mission Space versus Club Cool. So you can either get really sick on a centrifuge, or you can sit back and get really sick drinking the delicious Italian soft drink known as the Beverly.
Listen, Mission Space in itself, I'm aware that it's basically a damn centrifuge that simulates space. I need that more than I need an adult beverage in my life. I mean, I can find an adult beverage everywhere. And if I need an adult beverage in Epcot, I'm sure we're going to explore better places to make that happen later in this contest.
Does Club Cool sell alcohol? Because that will sway my decision.
No.
Okay.
But it does have Greek soda. They finally, Greeks are being represented.
Cool.
Liquor flavored?
In Epcot. I still would vote against it, but go for it.
Okay, so my checklist of things to do when I first bring people to Epcot, like for their first time, especially in the summer, like one thing is definitely to go to Club Cool and be like, oh my God, you have to try this best soda ever. And I think I got this from you, Demos. Weren't you the one who like bottled up the Beverly and gave it to someone as a prank or something like that?
Yes, that was me. I even made a little label with a crying emoji face. It was perfect.
Yeah, so that's fun. Like I love that, but really that's kind of all Club Cool has for me, and also AC. AC is going to be like a big bonus in any of these, but Mission Space, I have always loved like the Gravitron and like spinny rides at the carnival, and I love just the feeling of being like weightless and being in space. And I don't get like dizzy super easily, so I always do like the intense one. But I also have a weird crush on Gary Sinise. I'm not gonna lie.
I'll take you where you want to go, Gary. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what I meant.
Moving on, we have the Seas with Nemo and Friends ride versus the Fountain of Nations fountain show.
It's hard to say because one is a fountain and the other one is a ride. So it's almost not fair to compare them, but I feel like the Nemo ride has been done in other attractions before, just with a different coat of paint storyline on it. And I like it. I like Finding Nemo, but I don't love it. Personally, and I think the ride is fine. It's great for kids, but I think the fountain is very unique to Epcot, and it's just one of those things in Epcot that like once you pass the Spaceship Earth ball and you keep going, it's something really iconic. Or when you're leaving at the end of the night and you see all these like bright colored spouts of water shooting up, it's really cool. So I think I'm gonna give the edge to the fountain here.
It is cooler at night, I will agree. Kyle, what do you think?
Listen, at the end of the day, Disney tries to do the little things just a little bit better, and really that's all that fountain is. However, I have to submit now a ridiculous bias in here, where I'm basically going to not fully recuse my vote, because I'm going to hand it to Demos to be the deciding factor here. But of course I'm voting for Nemo and all that stuff. My agenda is to see to it that Veronica, my daughter, at some point goes on there and learns something about the ocean and gets inspired to want to scuba dive with mommy and daddy. So maybe the vacation for the family is that awesome.
Okay, good point. I respect that.
I'll throw the deciding vote this way. Disneyland has a similar version of this ride, but it's in the guise of what people from Orlando might think of the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea ride. It's in the submarine. It has its same feeling, and it's a little bit more spectacular. It seemed like it had a bigger budget. The Seas with Nemo and Friends, I think at Epcot, I think is a good ride. I think it's in the wrong park. I think it would have made a tremendous addition to something like Magic Kingdom or an Animal Kingdom. For me, it's really comes down to experience, and the experience of sitting back and watching those fountains, like Jen said, at the end of the day, it's relaxing and it's beautiful and it's something unique to Epcot. I'm actually going to go with the goddamn fountain.
Oh my God, the fountain's going to win it all.
This is not the people mover. Moving on.
Speaking of people mover,
stop it.
Up next, we have our returning champion, the People Mover from Magic Kingdom. It's in all our brackets in case you thought we've lost our minds. In a strange way, I feel like it doesn't feel completely out of place here in Epcot. Versus the Walt Disney World Monorail. The Monorail versus the People Mover.
You know, in order to really prepare you for this race, I have to take termine ser sentados, por favor. I'm going to give it to the Monorail simply on practicality. Yeah, whether you're traveling from the parking lot to a park and vice versa, listen, You get around from resorts to places where you need to be. The people mover is an air conditioning brake. I got the monorail.
I'm gonna have to agree with Kyle here because you know how like they had those couple years where like all the TGIF shows they all went to Disney World. Okay. And so I just remember like the opening and them showing the monorail and it being like the quintessential Disney shot. And I can't imagine if they took the people mover out, I would be really upset. But if they took the monorail out, it would not be Disney World. And also 7 words. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Suck it, people mover. Yeah. Anyway.
So Monorail wins. Moving on, now we're going into World Showcase. And World Showcase, there are a lot of shows and attractions and galleries and museums that people tend to overlook there. And there are 2 attractions that are very, very similar to me. They are Circle Vision theater shows. One is from China, called Reflections of China, and one is from Canada, called Oh Canada, starring Martin Short.
The China show, like I saw it a long time ago, and I remember it really being really beautiful. But I saw the Canada one recently, and it's so funny. Like it's so silly, like over the top, and Martin Short is just hilarious. Yeah, I'll have to give it to Oh Canada just because it's so funny, and I really like it.
For me, it's about the spirit of the law, so to speak, here, right? And the concept of these pavilions, correct me if I have it wrong, Demos, is to basically give a taste of each of these cultures to the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. Is that or is that not true?
EPCOT, in a way, is a permanent World's Fair. And the Future World section is more about the display of technology, and the World Showcase really is about the world aspect of the World's Fair, bringing together all sorts of cultures with the spirit of hope and promise for tomorrow.
Awesome. And in fairness, Oh Canada is portraying one of the top exports from Canada other than beer, ice, and hockey, and that is comedians. Okay. I'm looking for something more than that. And when I'm looking at these things, and some of the stuff that they have in the China piece is rather breathtaking. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Canada thing wasn't entertaining in its own right. But here I find China to be more commensurate with the spirit of the task of these shows within these pavilions.
So now that Kyle has reflected on China, for me, it's much more, which one is shot more interestingly? And which one really adheres to the spirit of the 360 environment? In the Canada show, they utilize single screens quite a bit in that. And in Reflections of China, there are some sweeping shots that fill up all the screens. And you feel like the whole theater is moving.
Legit.
It takes the edge. I think that Canada is more entertaining to a wider, possibly has a wider appeal. But Reflections of China, I give it the edge. Lately, in World Showcase, there have been a few changes to old rides. And rides in World Showcase, there have only been 2 up to now. And the original versions were El Rio del Tiempo from Mexico. And it brings a tear to my eye that it's gone. Maelstrom from Norway. They have been invaded by cartoons. They are now the Grand Fiesta Tour starring the 3 Caballeros and Frozen Ever After. Donald Duck versus Elsa. Bring it on, Kyle.
The 30 Caballeros are going to lose every time. They're the most overrated conglomerate of Disney, if you ask me. And you're going to put that over something that puts smiles big enough that maintain my daughter's heart. You are asking the wrong guy. Though Maelstrom's demise is due to an unfortunate coincidence that we have the first Scandinavian princesses involved here in Anna and Elsa. I have the Frozen ride for the win all day.
I'm tempted to pick 3 Caballeros ride because remember that time when Josh and I went on it and we texted you, Demos, like 1,000 photos from it? Remember that?
It's one of my most beautiful memories.
We were like, remember this part? Because you were like always would like drag us to go on and you're like, oh my God, stop. Send you like 40 pictures.
There's never a wait for that ride and there's air conditioning. So
right. Exactly. See, one of my boxes.
Air conditioning again?
There's AC in Frozen too. Okay, so
I'd hope so.
Holy shiz!
I miss Maelstrom, but I feel like Frozen is definitely a better ride overall. Like I feel like it would almost be silly and like uneducatedly, is that a word? Sure. Nostalgic of me to not pick Frozen. I like the ride, and it has like the spirit of Maelstrom in the way that the ride operates, but it just has a prettier, sparklier paint. Oh, good.
All right, Frozen wins. I will add real quick that at the very least, Grand Fiesta Tour starring the Three Caballeros is more about Mexico than Frozen Ever After is about Norway.
That's true.
But I understand. I understand why that vote's being made.
The
So
Three Caballeros suck, Demos. Deal with this.
what's wrong with the Three Caballeros? No, that's a whole new required viewing. Three Caballeros. You asked for it, Kyle. You welcome. So to round off World Showcase shows, we have the American Adventure versus Impressions de France, possibly the most overlooked of the EPCOT World Showcase theater shows.
I mean, I feel like the whole American animatronic thing is done at the Hall of Presidents. I know that's an uneducated answer, but you pointed out some good stuff with China about like the sweeping shots of the landscapes, and I feel like the France show really gets the essence, makes you feel more immersed in that culture, and shows you a lot of different sides that, like, now that I've been to France, it's cool. Like, it would be like cool to go and watch that and kind of be transported back.
It's incomparable. I know it's a different park, Demos, but if the Carousel of Progress is a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, this American Adventure is a tiny, cramped, sorry, ugly yesterday, okay? Can we be clear on that? This stuff, listen, this was a big deal in 86 when I was still in kindergarten, and they haven't touched the damn thing since. First of all, you got historical figures in the same room that did not exist at the same time, and you're trying to use us to teach a lesson in American history. Kiss my ass. I can't even use it as an educational tool, and it sucks, by the way, in the delivery. The voice acting is terrible, and animatronics even at the time were trash. Get that the hell out of my house. If I'm going to waste my time over in the American Pavilion, which is in itself overrated, thank you very much, I'm going to listen to the voices of
Voice of Liberty. Sorry, I had to agree. Voice of Liberty.
I'm not wasting my time in that animatronic trash because I know Disney can do better.
I do want to point out one thing about the animatronics. At the time, they were actually very state of the art.
I know that
portrayed the first animatronic to actually walk up a staircase. It was quite a big deal at the time. But Impressions of France, I think it's underrated, and I hope that Ratatouille doesn't kick it out. I'm actually impressed that it's moving on. Now we're actually going to pit some of the pavilions themselves versus each other. Mind you, we're not making judgments on said country. We're just talking about the experience of the pavilion, from its food to its atmosphere to how well it envelops you within that world. We have Germany versus Italy.
Well, see, here's the thing. You mentioned that we're not making an opinion of the country themselves, but rather the aptitude of the portrayal. And frankly, I find the Italian pavilion wanting. That's a country I've actually had the opportunity to be at, and it needs work. I'm just saying. I've also been to Germany. I feel like it's truer to the food and what's going on there. The look is better. I'm going to give this one to Germany overall.
We never skip the Germany pavilion whenever I go, and it doesn't, like, Italy has the show edge, I feel like, and it has such like a sprawling space. Germany has this railroad,
yes,
this train setup that if you're patient and some kid runs up and they're playing the Kim Possible game and they go like beep 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 on their phone, the little guys in the train garden put their arms up and their eyes glow red. And they're zombies, and it's awesome. So, Germany for the train garden. Straight up.
I love the model train display, the train garden. It is awesome. It's like one of those things that you will miss if you're speeding through the pavilions, or by the time you get to Germany, you might be too drunk during the Food and Wine Festival. Not that I've had any experience with that, but
right now.
I concur. Germany it is. So, moving on, we have Mexico versus Canada. North America versus South North America.
Listen, I'm back to that place where I found the Canadian Pavilion pretty much underwhelming. I mean, according to Robin Williams, Canada is a loft apartment above a really great party anyway. So, no, it does what it's supposed to do, and it has a steakhouse, whereas over at the Mexican Pavilion, it's a lot more, I think it's a lot closer to try to deliver the experience, and give you the food and the drink that you're looking for. I think the Mexican Pavilion in itself has an unfair advantage because it has more to offer. Is it Is it air quotes more true to Mexico than the Canadian Pavilion? No, I don't think so. But I think you're prone to have a better time at Mexico with the way it's set up. I got the edge to Mexico.
Canada, like the only things I really care about in the Canadian Pavilion are Les Cellier, the steakhouse is very good. It's not the best steak I've ever had, but it was good. And the cheddar beer soup, or what's it called? Beer cheese soup.
Beer
But
cheese soup sounds like something from Canada.
It really does.
I forget exactly what it's called, but it's a cheese soup that they sell there, and they used to sell it during the Food and Wine Festival too. I think they still do, like little bowls of it at the booth outside. But
They have poutine.
poutine, yum. Okay, so Canada is great, but Mexico has a tequila cave.
Yes.
The line's usually not long. You get to hang out inside in the air conditioning, and I'm not even gonna pretend like I care about the rest. Yeah, no, tequila cave wins.
So yeah, Mexico it is. I fully agree. Because it's indoor, it has a stronger, more enveloping aesthetic than any of the other pavilions in a way.
As a PSA to our viewers, because I can't let this slide without our viewers being protected. Okay, this is a public service announcement. Please don't make Jen a drinking game. Do not do a drinking game for every time she says AC. You will not survive.
I'm sorry, it's just so hot.
Carry on, Demos.
Well, speaking of drinking games, these two countries here have some very good drinks. We have France versus UK.
Whoa, that's a tough one. Like, I can tell we're getting to the middle of the bracket because we got one of those where I can go either way with this one moving on. Very strong bracket by you tonight.
Thank you.
And wow, that's a real tough one because listen, you got the badass wine versus,
Fish and chips.
And fish. Well, see, fish and chips isn't what excites me there. If I can get a Dropkick Murphys cover band, though, hell to the yeah.
This is hard. I feel like it's World Cup all over again because Josh was going for England after Germany got eliminated, and I was going for France the whole time, and we know how that turned out.
I was going for Greece, so it was very short for me.
Right. Over Corp again. Yeah, I really like the UK pavilion. It's just a really good atmosphere, very laid back. Their food is fantastic. And it's got the British Revolution cover band that plays in the back. But I'm going to have to give it to France because I don't know. And it might be my own personal bias because I just really love French culture and being immersed in that. And the restaurants are really good. Like Le Chef de France is really good, and Monsieur Paul above, and creme brulee is really good. And during Food and Wine Fest, they have my favorite dish, which is the escargot in like a buttery, delicious croissant. And they have a huge, God, I sound like an alcoholic. I'm really not, but like they have this like big Grey Goose drink that's blue, and it's just so good. And it's like rivals the Tequila Cave margaritas, and so for all those reasons, I'm gonna pick France.
How do you have a French pavilion without baguettes? I'm just throwing that out there.
There should be a baguette store. You're right.
Well, they have baguettes, and the one reason why I'm voting for France, and Jen, you may have said it, but I missed it. The French bakery.
Yes.
They have baguettes there. I hope they still do. But that French bakery alone gets the vote for me.
If I go there next time and they have baguettes, this is going to be a universal vote then, or a unanimous vote, because I've been there and I've never seen baguettes, and I am a baguette fiend.
So next up, we have China versus Japan.
Wow. The aesthetic to both are fantastic. But among the pavilions, I got to say, these are the ones that you kind of know what you're going to get when you go in and they deliver, and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, great. I can tell you for a fact that it's not going to make it to the top of this bracket. So I'm relatively neutral here. And then I'm also on top of that taking out the experience of Splendid China in the 360 panorama. So what does it have to offer me more than Japan? By default, I got Japan.
I don't ever really spend a whole lot of time in the China pavilion. I sometimes will stop and watch the really cool like acrobatic show, and that's really neat.
That is tight.
But Japan food and drink really plays a big part for me. And they have this like snow cone stand out front that's so good. But the thing that really seals it for me is I think Japan has the best store in the entire World Showcase. The huge store with like so many, like there's a whole side just with like, you know, anime and like cartoon and like Hello Kitty and all of that. But then you go further into the store and the whole second half is more like, you know, adult, like
Kimonos and so forth.
yeah, and like all this Japanese like snacks and things like that. So that definitely puts it over the edge for me.
Agreed, 100%. Japan, you move on. Next, we have Norway versus Morocco, the two pavilions added after EPCOT opened.
The only thing Norway really has for me is a big troll statue in one of the shops. Morocco is awesome. Like restaurant Marrakesh is like, if I had to pick a sit down restaurant like for dinner in all of EPCOT, that was my favorite. It would probably be that. And the entertainment there is really good with the belly dancers, and the prices are pretty reasonable for Disney. And it's just really hard, even in the World Showcase in some places, to find like quality value in the food for the money that you're paying. And I feel like Marrakesh has that quality wise, and they give you so much. And it's, I don't know.
It doesn't feel like you're in Disney in that restaurant. It
No.
feels very removed.
You know, I hate to sound like I'm trolling, but I will not pick Norway here. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I've not had the opportunity to go in the restaurant Marrakesh, but the atmosphere of that place, I always thought it was kind of cool, even going back to days when I'm, you know, going there on a field trip in elementary school. Like it was obligatory every other year if you went to elementary school here in Florida that you hit up EPCOT. And every time I always thought that pavilion was relatively cool. Punchline being this, I think it's one of the most underrated portions of EPCOT, if not the. I'll even go on a limb and say the. I will add the Marrakesh to my list of shiz to do. I mean, what the heck? I got a wife and a 9th anniversary coming up in half a year. I'll plan for it, whatever.
So moving on, we have the American Adventure Pavilion versus Soarin' Around the World.
Soren. Like I can't even. I mean, American Adventure like is fine, but I think it's gonna be hard for me to pick anything over Soren. Like Soren is such a good ride. I don't know if it's like the most indicative or like iconic as far as like what you think of when you think of Epcot, but you've got like all the smells and you feel like you're transported to like different places, and it's just really fun. I'm gonna go with Soren.
If it was Voices of Liberty versus Soren, Soren would lose. However, we have the rest of it bringing the whole situation down. The most overrated aspect of Epcot, in my opinion, is only escaping by the American Pavilion because it's that bad.
We're going to complete Future World here. Seabass from The Seas and Nemo and Friends versus the newer version of Journey into Imagination with Figment. Kyle and I already covered in our top 5 extinct Disney rides how Journey into Imagination is the single best Disney ride that's ever been corrupted. But nevertheless, Seabass versus Journey into Imagination. Take it, Kyle.
I'm forced to cite 2 very strong biases. One of them you took care of, and it's not only a figment of your imagination to how big a mistake that could be. Figment in itself is a character that should have never even been considered being deleted. It's very sad. Moreover, again, I am a certified scuba diver who had the opportunity to dive in an aquarium setting. What's the aquarium setting in question? The damn seas. I bumped into a giant motherfucking shark. And the only reason why I didn't poop myself is because it wasn't my wetsuit, okay? At the end of the day, that was an experience like none other. I'm pretty sure I made a little kid shiz himself when I swam up to the window while they were eating dinner in the restaurant there. Where one of the windows is open to the aquarium, and I waved hi and everything. But yeah, you're not going to be able to convince me that the new Journey into Imagination is better than what they have there in the seas. I'm so sorry.
Wait, they took Figment out?
No, well, they did take Figment. Okay, so Journey to Imagination, the original version, closed in the 90s. Then they released a version without Figment called Journey into Your Imagination. And when that bombed horribly, they They updated it with Figment, but it's still, it's
Okay, it doesn't have the same. Okay.
it's a bastardization of what was possibly Disney's greatest ride.
Man, like I love Figment. He's so cute, but the ride itself is like just not that good. I feel like Figment deserves better, you know?
Watch videos of the original ride, and you'll see what he deserved.
Aw, Figment. I guess I'll have to go with Seabass too, only because like I'm gonna throw it back to when I was talking about the TGIF shows in the 90s. That was Disney World. There's a scene where like
Full House, that episode.
yes,
Yeah.
I knew you would know. Yeah, when like Danny Tanner's trying to like ask Vicky to marry him, and he like has a sign, and he like scuba dives down, and then isn't there a shark that like chases Jesse and Joey? Anyway, that's
They
why
get trapped. They get trapped.
Oh my God, they trapped in the big ball, right?
It is one of the few truly educational environments left in Epcot. I mean, it's one of the largest aquariums in the world. Just to tell you how big that aquarium is, you can fit Spaceship Earth, the big-ass ball. You can fit it in the aquarium and still have room to spare. But moving on from the seas, we're going to the land. Living with the Land ride versus Turtle Talk with Crush.
You know, Living with the Land is cool. I've done it a couple of times. It's really long, and I'm not really like a crunchy earth kind of girl. So I'm gonna go Turtle Talk because so the guy who officiated our wedding, Eddie, I don't know if he still does the voice of Crush, but he did for a really long time, I think. So I have that little connection to it. And plus, Crush is like the coolest Nemo character, man.
The Land is one of those exhibits that I will be sad to see go, despite the fact it's not one of the most air quotes exciting ones. There's a lot of science going on there. There's a lot of lessons to be learned.
One of the originals that's still left. One of the very few.
And they should keep it. I like a lot of the stuff they try to do in there. But at the end of the day, I already feel great about the laugh floor that's in the Magic Kingdom. And you found a way to put Crush into it and make it educational with the Turtle Talk exhibit, I'm down. It passes.
Final matchup of round one, we have Test Track versus Innoventions.
You know, Innoventions in itself, I like that it's there. It's another one of these things that provides several exhibits, and a lot of them are pretty cool. But Test Track, listen, folks, that was the piece that you expect to see when you're going to Daytona, and they don't have an experience like that. And Test Track, it's stronger than you would think, and it's kind of the thing that brings a little bit of life into the lineup at Epcot, especially now that Body Wars is gone. That's right, I said it. Anyway.
Oh, I forgot about Body Wars.
And Universe of Energy, in case anybody asks why it's not here.
That's the Ellen one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Universe of Energy sucks, and it sucked for some time. I said it.
But you can nap, and also
and AC, right? Oh,
fill in the blank.
Poisoning.
45 minutes of air condition.
Don't discount that.
Listen, I know you might have a problem with the sun, but look at my skin tone. I'm good, okay?
I feel like Innoventions has been a little bit neglected since I was a kid. Like I went into it in January and was walking around, and it felt a little barren and sad the way like a mall does nowadays too. And maybe that's a testament to just kids being like less patient than they used to be because, you know, all of the technology that they have at their fingertips now. And, you know, it's not as much of a novelty to see some of these gadgets like all in one place now, but it would take something really, really crazy like Soren or Gary Sinise to beat Test Track.
And the only way you entertain those is to have tech that's incredibly badass and cutting edge. And Disney is at that point in the life of a corporation where they're less inclined to have items like that as part of it because the outlay to make that happen goes away. Wonder is less a part of the equation at Disney now than it ever used to be. Like Walt would probably put a little bit more money towards something like that, but now he's a bit more cutthroat in its boardroom, and I know Demos will back me on all of this.
Right.
I think a tear's coming to my eye right now.
I mean,
but you know.
Like, you know how the future used to be flying cars and all of this? I just feel like Innoventions and parts of Epcot are still kind of stuck in that, and no one has really, I don't know. Like
it's a park with an identity crisis.
It is, and I still like. I don't want Innoventions to go away. I don't want, you know, Frozen to keep replacing Maelstroms. You know what I mean?
2, where we start off in space. Spaceship Earth versus Mission Space.
Listen, it was cute that we got it in here because it's the trademark, but yeah, now it's time to blow up Spaceship Earth. Get this thing out of my house, okay? It's adorable. I want to feel like I'm in space, not talk about Spaceship Earth and like, oh, towards the future, and it still looks like it's trapped in the damn 70s. I have Mission Space.
Judi Dench versus Gary Sinise.
Oh, it's Judi Dench. Why did I think it was Christopher Walken? What am I thinking of? Is that Earthquake?
Oh my, yes, it is Earthquake, but my God.
But that's been closed for like 10 or 15 years. Oh my God.
Spaceship Earth, narrated by Christopher Walken, would be the greatest thing ever.
Two little mice fell in a bucket of cream. The first mouse quickly gave up and drowned.
Oh my God. I love Judi Dench too, though. Okay, it's another nap ride. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I like it and it's cool. And when they updated it, it was cool to have the little like story where they take your picture and they create a little like futuristic story for you, and that's all fine and well. But Mission Space is just like a more intense thrill, and Epcot has so few like thrill rides that it would be really difficult to eliminate any of them this like early.
Well, Spaceship Earth is a slow-moving roller coaster according to its own display.
Yeah, no. So I'm just gonna go Mission Space because it's just, I don't know. It feels it's more intense.
I should point out that, and this might break your heart because I don't think you realize it, but Gina Torres replaced Gary Sinise on Mission Space.
God, I know, and I just don't want to believe it, so I'm just not gonna believe it.
Okay. Now we have, and this is funny because I think when I think of a perfect Epcot picture, I think of Spaceship Earth, the fountain, and the monorail passing by. We have Fountain of Nations versus the Walt Disney World monorail.
Well, my take earlier maintains Disney took a detail and made it even better, and you have the fountain. The monorail actually has a practical purpose. Termine sentados, por favor. I'm going to make this vote move on as you remain seated.
Oh, why can't I think of fun puns like this? God. I'm going to agree with the monorail because por favor manténganse alejados de las puertas. And that's just the way it's going to go. And that's it.
It looks like, just like the monorail, we're all on a single track with this. The monorail wins.
Damn it. I'll get a zinger.
You might get your chance for a zinger because we have Reflections of China versus Frozen Ever After.
Frozen.
Well, I'll go ahead and disclose Jen's bias for her. She's also been Elsa for Halloween before, so there's that.
Yeah.
I knew it.
But that being said, you know, for the kids would be the excuse for Frozen Ever After. China, as far as that particular show, I think is one of the exhibits there that does the most to serve the purpose of the World Showcase. Certainly more so than Frozen Ever After, in my opinion. In a controversial move, I'm going to pick the China Pavilion here.
Okay. Full disclosure, one of my best friends worked on the Frozen Ever After ride, but she did so while maliciously destroying Maelstrom, and she took delight in this, and this is my chance for revenge. I'm going for Reflection of China, really just for the same reasons that that Kyle just laid out. For some members in the audience, hell just froze over, but I have to go with China.
Damn, that's a good one too.
Moving on, we have Impressions de France, the show, versus the German Pavilion.
Oh man, that's hard. I'm gonna have to go Germany because it's just better. You feel more immersed in the country there than you do just watching that show.
Does it have as much air condition?
If you go inside, it does.
You know, the only thing making this and keeping this from being the easiest decision on the ballot is an unfair disadvantage actually held by Disney here. Oddly enough, I can go to Sanford easier and get a great German food experience at the Hollerbox Willow Tree Cafe. That being said, they have like a little brass band that plays over in Germany that's great, and that whole ambiance is amazing.
And the railroad.
And of
The
course,
railroad.
garden, absolutely, and the freaking beer garden, yeah. Jawohl, Germany.
So next we have a pavilion versus a pavilion. Mexico versus France.
Man, I think you have the strongest competition so far here. I'm gonna edge out with Mexico winning on quantity of stuff. More AC, the Tequila Cave, and just the whole experience. I think they just got more going on. It's a bigger pavilion that provides more, in my opinion. It may not be bigger in area. I just feel like they have more there. I'm gonna go Mexico.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick, if I had to skip one, which one I would choose to skip, and it would probably be Mexico. Just because I just love the ambiance of the French Pavilion, like just seeing the little Eiffel Tower from far away, and I don't know, you just feel fancier walking in there, even if you're like all sweaty. You're just like, oh, I'm gonna just get me some wine and, you know, get me a creme brulee and like get me a baguette that they probably have that I haven't seen either, but I'm sure they have them.
They have baguettes. It's the French Pavilion. No French fries. I hate to break this tie. I like you, Jen. I want you back on the show, so don't hate me for this. But
No.
Mexico. The maintaining of the nighttime ambiance in that pavilion, it's just very, very unique. It really sets it apart from the other pavilions.
But hey, at least France didn't surrender in this exchange. Be proud.
They didn't in the World Cup either.
Hey, France had to win sometime.
Oh!
So moving on, before I get banned from YouTube for hate speech, next up we have Japan versus Morocco. Pavilion versus pavilion. Kyle.
I need more time to laugh at that hate speech joke, so I'm just going to say Morocco and hand it to Jen.
I'm gonna have to agree. I just think Morocco has a better feel to it. You just feel like you're transported a little bit more. Japan is cool, but the only time that you're really like immersed anywhere is when you go into the big ass store, which is really cool, but it's not really, you know, representative of being inside the country itself. It doesn't feel quite as authentic.
Next up we have literal opposites. Soarin' Around the World, Up in the Sky versus Seabass.
I'm gonna have to go Soren. Like, Seabass is really cool. I would love to get my scuba certification and do like scuba diving, and I know I would have to like cross Seabass off my list if I did that, and maybe my opinion would be different. I'm gonna go Soren. Oh, and Patrick Warburton, and the guy in the safety video when he takes off his ears and he looks all sad and he has to put him under the seat. Anyway,
that should have been Jason Alexander.
It should have.
It kind of looks like him.
I know.
I'd hate to interrupt this episode of Seinfeld, but the best you got for me is Patrick Warburton. Seriously, the fact that he is on Soren and he's part of what lifts it up is proof how Soren is over goddamn rated. And are you kidding me? I'm going to sit in the seat and watch a screen and see a simulation, and you're going to pick that over the real goddamn thing. I bumped into a fucking shark. And by the way, all the spewing I'm doing right now, if you did get certified, House Nash would be more than happy to accompany you on the trip in question. And you will feel a fool that you ever voted the way that you did.
But you can smell oranges when you fly over oranges.
I can smell salt water and bump into a motherfucking shark.
That's a very good point, Jen, because Florida's in a real lack of oranges.
Yeah. Aren't you glad I brought that up?
There we go.
This is my only try, okay? Just laugh and love it, okay?
I applaud you. Okay. Ooh, this is a tough one. Kyle I think you both bring up some great points. Jen certainly brought on the war, Burton. But okay. Here's the delineation for me. The experiences that you can have at Seabass as far as diving and actually having the scuba experience, that's an extra thing. You have to pay for a different package to be able to enjoy that privilege. So I'm basing my decision purely on what you can experience as a normal day patron. Soren, when it came out, was very much a unique experience. I do agree with Kyle that it is a little overrated. But as far as taking the package that's available with the Living Seas out of the equation, I'm actually probably going to go with Soren on this one. But the Living Seas gets another chance here because we have Turtle Talk with Crush versus Test Track.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to dine on turtle soup. I got Test Track all day long.
I'm going to have to speed right up with Kyle here. And I am going to agree with Test Track.
Well, like many bad Floridian drivers, we're running over this turtle.
Yep.
Oh.
Aw, You crushed the turtle.
Oh! Wait, was that meant to be a pun?
Yeah.
Oh!
We have our Elite 8 Mission Space versus the Walt Disney World Monorail.
The monorail, there is no way it should be in the Elite Eight, but the path it took there was relatively easier than its opponent. The monorail goes home here, folks. It's cute. Now it's done here.
I have to agree with that. I mean, if this was about like Disney parks in general and what is like the most iconic aspects of them, it might have a little bit more of a shot at the top. I think I might actually kind of gun for it to win, but I'm gonna have to pick Mission Space just because it is like I said, the other thrill ride in the park.
Mission Space it is. So next up we have Reflections of China versus Germany.
Reflections of China does its job well. I've described that many times, but at the end of the day, the entire German experience, it prevails. I got Germany.
Germany. There's more going on there than in like a one single show.
Germany moves on. Which brings us to, this might actually be the toughest one for me, so I hope I don't have to break this tie. Mexico versus Morocco.
Oh, man.
Don't make me break this. Please don't make me break this.
This one's rough. I think I'm going to have to go Mexico because obviously of the Tequila Cave. But I don't feel like Morocco has anything over it as far as immersing you into the country. And like you said, like the way that they're able to keep the night ambiance inside the pavilion is really cool.
You know, you remember that time where you made me and Big TJ have to decide between Ragnarok and Infinity War? I vowed I would get my revenge. And I'm not picking it just for this because Morocco was going to be my pick anyway. And as that realization came to my ears, I smiled wider. Know that the revenge of having you break this tie is worse than anything you could have done to me and TJ having to choose between Infinity War and Ragnarok. So, I have Morocco. Break the tie, Demos. Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Mean.
For me, this is really just a question of aesthetic versus food. Overall, I think that the aesthetic of Mexico, just by a hair because it's so unique, beats Morocco. I prefer the food in Morocco. I prefer the drinks in Mexico. I like Morocco quite a bit because it's the only part of EPCOT where I can enjoy Mediterranean food. But it's not. Even though it's Mediterranean, it's not Greek food. Which, come on, EPCOT. This isn't biased speaking at this moment, but no Greek pavilion?
Honestly. That would be amazeballs. What the?
I mean...
Listen, they need the money, Disney. Pay an attaché, for Christ's sake.
It's not like it's going to be a very difficult pavilion to design. You throw in the Acropolis.
Oh, my God.
How
have I not thought of this before?
I mean... You got Norway before you got Greece? What the hell? Anyway, I hope that the Moroccan chef that I know isn't watching this because I'm going to go with Mexico.
Oh, burn.
Does it burn, Demos?
Not really. What burns is I can't get Mickey Mouse gyros. What the hell? Imagine the Mickey Mouse shape on the pita bread. Come on.
That is pretty goddamn baller. I'm not going to front.
Sorry, my heart bleeds. Thanks,
yes.
Kyle.
Yes, it does.
But your heart might bleed after this one because I'm curious. Soren versus Test Track.
My heart will be just fine. Test Track. Don't be dumb, Jen.
My heart will go on over the world in Soren. Kyle.
You aren't going to be this dumb, Demos. If Soren wins this bracket, I'm going to have to disown you.
Soren's not going to win. I like it better. I do. But I don't think it's... that's just my personal preference. I don't necessarily think it's a better ride. But
I can go 65 miles an hour in my car. I can hang glide all over the world in 4 minutes. However, I can't drive through what looks like a world from Tron. So I'm going to go with Test Track.
Damn it, I thought you had me.
I'm not a big fan of screen rides in general, although as far as screen rides go, Soren is one of the best. We're down to our final four, and we have I never would have imagined that these two were gonna ever go up against each other, but this is intriguing to me. Mission Space versus Germany.
Holy
This is just a testament to how diverse of a park Epcot is. Like how many
for reals.
Mission Space has something that Germany doesn't, which is that it's like its own thing. Like Germany is one pavilion in the World Showcase, and while it's one of the better ones, I don't think it's better than the like entertainment factor that Mission Space brings, even without Gary Bay, Lieutenant Dan.
Completely different movie if Forrest Gump shouts out, Lieutenant Bay! Oh, Jesus. Anyways, no, I'm having more trouble with this than I would have thought. I think part of it is that I'm older and can appreciate things like brew and things like that. However, the technical disadvantage, I'm going to let that come into play here because Disney might have to address it here at some point, especially with the Hollabach Willow Tree Cafe growing in prowess and influence as it is over here on this side of town away from Disney. I'm gonna go Mission Space because I can't go somewhere else to get the any part of the experience.
I think you should experience both, but make sure you experience Mission Space before you drink all the German beer.
Yeah.
Next, we have Mexico versus Test Track.
I think the perfect combination you have there is a ride-on Test Track to get pumped the hell up and a nice after party to head over the Mexican Pavilion afterward. What do you get from that experience? As I just portrayed it, the main event is, in fact, the Test Track.
I want to vote against Test Track on principle because I love Soren and it beats Soren. But Test Track is better than Mexico. But yes, I think, you drive and then go have the margarita, the avocado margarita, or the blood orange margarita.
The avocado one is better than you think, folks, although I'm all about the blood orange.
This actually works out perfectly because for a bronze match, we're going to have the two World Showcase pavilions battling out. Germany versus Mexico.
Like a lot of third place matches, you think it's going to be interesting, and then you see it's actually a goddamn blowout. I have Mexico all day.
I have to agree. There's more to see in Mexico than there is in Germany. For me, the big draw of Germany is that train garden and that they have good alcohol. And Mexico has great alcohol and a beautiful atmosphere and has a ride. And I think Mexico. I'm not upset about Mexico winning the best pavilion. I think I didn't expect it to, but I think it's one of those ones where I never miss it when I go.
And it has air conditioning. Our final matchup, we have Mission Space versus Test Track.
Listen, this is one of those where somebody has to lose, and it's just unfortunate. At the end of the day, where I'm stuck, I don't have a thing for Gary Sinise. So I have no problem running him right over with a Test Track vehicle. I have Test Track.
So Lieutenant Dan is not in Mission Space anymore, so I can't cite my crush on Gary Sinise. And in this, what both these rides have in common are they're the only two thrill rides in Epcot, and they both require you to kind of work together on the ride. So at the beginning of Test Track, you're building a vehicle together, and then you test it out together, and at the end, you see how it did against other vehicles. And in Mission Space, you each have a different job in the spaceship. So one of you is the navigator, one of you is the pilot, one of you is the engineer, and the other one is commander. So, but the thing is, in that one, you don't really do anything to you don't make a lot of decisions. It's cool that they both have these things in common. They're kind of work together rides, they're thrill rides. But I have to give it to Test Track also, just because I feel like you get more tangible satisfaction out of something you did beforehand.
Plus, Mission Space killed Horizons the greatest Epcot ride other than Journey into Imagination.
I don't even remember that. What the heck was that? Was that the thing with the dancing food and stuff?
No.
Food Rocks? No. Horizons was the
Was lame.
future world attraction about the future.
And it was lame.
You could choose your future at the end. It was very unique because it was one of the first attractions ever to be interactive. So at the very end, you'd be positioned in front of a huge IMAX screen. You could pick the space feature and make you feel like you're flying through space. Kind of like a more stationary precursor to Soren.
It was.
Oh, Kyle, when you were little and you went on it, did you pick to have really bad taste in Magic Kingdom rides? Is that why you're so mad? Oh.
Look at this chick. Seconds can't come up with a pun, and now she's throwing more shade than you can find under the water. At the end of the day, the Haunted Mansion's still better.
I agree. It's better than Toy Story.
What about bad taste in Magic Kingdom rides now? Ooh.
I mean, that one, fine, but your anger about the People Mover and the Carousel of Progress, they got to go. Come on. AC.
I got your great, big, beautiful tomorrow right here.
Well, that was it for our Epcot Elimination Challenge brackets. What did you guys think of our choices? Do you guys think that the test track is the best Epcot ride, or do you have another option available? Let us know in the comments below. How do you feel about Morocco? Morocco's awesome. Jen, thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime, man.
Where can we find you?
You can find me at bookstores, Harry Potter conventions, in my bed and with my cat, but also online at Words with Jen on Twitter and Instagram, and jenjuneau.com. That's Juneau spelled Juneau, like capital of Alaska. And I also write for people.com if you do people.com/author/Jen, Jen.
If you end up with a bunch of strangers in your bedroom because you just invited them over,
That's on me. I will take full responsibility and also invest in a better security system.
Kyle, thanks as always for stabbing me in the back and making me choose between two countries full of, I assume, wonderful people. Where can we find you?
Well, first of all, I have to say in response to that is, second, also great time. Thank you, Jen, for coming aboard. Strong work by you all the way around once again. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at the SOTG. You can find me on Instagram as the SOTG. And of course, on Facebook, you can find me as the student of the game. Don't forget about what I do with Big TJ on Tuesday nights, dinner time, 10 o'clock Eastern. If you want to listen to it live from Blog Talk Radio, search dinner time, or hey, check out the social media platforms for the aftermath. You'll get the recording if you didn't have time to check it out live. Good times for you there.
Of course, you can find me on hilaritybydefault.com, where we have a lot of fun stuff every week. On Twitter, at Default Hilarity, on Facebook and Instagram, Hilarity by Default. And of course, right here on Default Assault every Thursday, where life is hilarious by default.